Hello investors, and thank you for being with us today. My name is Sarah, and these are my colleagues, Keith and Adam. Now, today, before we get started, I want to talk to you about something very important. As economies grow and as businesses grow in BC, it is very important that we do not forget about safety. And that is something that us at Hawkeye have identified. So moving forward, we've identified a unique opportunity in BC specifically. Now, we know there is a growing industry of the liquefied natural gas, LNG, in BC. And we know that by 2010, BC wants to have be home to three LNG facilities, specifically in the northern communities such as Kitimat. Now, LNG Canada is the only one of these that is not a pipeline. So moving forward, we know that this growth will create 100,000 jobs in the BC communities, and it will also increase the northern BC population. But more importantly, it will create more transit, more transport up to these northern communities. Now, what our idea is. We are a retrofit face recognition camera that will be used by the long-haul truck drivers that will identify when the drivers are operating in an unsafe or an unalert manner. So the way this will work, in Canada, we know that our roads are dangerous, and we need our truck drivers to be very alert at all times. And we also know that, the way that this device works is when the truck driver is driving, and the sensor will sense whether the driver is in a non-alert way, or if their eyes are not open, it will beep the driver in a way to alert them and make sure that they're awake, or notify them to go and take a break. We are asking for $350,000 for a 25% stake in our company, and we have determined that your 25% stake will be over $1.8 million at the end of year 5.
So now that you have a baseline of what our product is, I have a product list here, so I'm not going to bore you with the product list, but instead show you a diagram of what our product and our device is going to look like. So as you can see, we have a device here with the dimensions being 37 meters long and 10 centimeters high. This device is going to be installed within trucks on top or above the driver's head, so it has a view of the driver. Within this device is hardware and software that we are going to develop with face recognition technology. This recognition technology will then be used through the camera, and it will be looking for two things. It will be looking for the driver's head position as well as their eyes. And with this, it will be able to determine if a driver is falling asleep and unable to safely drive the vehicle. So as you can see on either side of our camera are two speakers. If it does indeed need to notify the driver that they're falling asleep, a loud noise or tone will be emitted from the speakers. So that is the external part of the device, but what's inside? So within our hardware are two other very important features. We will have a removable memory card, and this memory card will track two things. One, it will be able to record the time the time of a driver being fatigued, and it will allow the company of the truck to see if their driver is fatigued. The second is it is going to track the driving log. So there are very important laws and regulations of how long a truck driver can be behind the wheel without taking breaks, and they are required to record this themselves on logs. This is an additional resource for companies to use to track it for themselves in order to make sure that their drivers are being honest with their logs. So now that you know what our idea is, how are you going to make money? How are we going to sell this product? So we have determined that our target market is the long-haul trucking companies. This is limitless. This is a very large number. BC specifically is projected by 2018 to have 1,500 new drivers within the liquid natural gas market alone. And that is the market we would like to start with. It is important that we start here because BC, being in the Rockies, has two important features of their highways: single lane, winding highways, and weather can change in an instant. And that is why you need this in your truck. Now, we don't have the information necessary to give you a market evaluation of trucking companies within Canada or within North America, but instead I'm going to ask Adam to give you a unit projected forecast of our product.
Thank you, Keith. So as Keith had mentioned, 1,500 new jobs in the trucking industry will be created in the northern BC area by 2018. Now, if we look to sell 100 of our Hawkeye units to this marketplace, that's a very, very conservative market capitalization at only 7%. The unit price is $600, which will net us a total revenue of $60,000, and that's not even a very good year. Moving forward, just to look at the unit itself, its total cost is $174. Now I'll draw your attention to the camera right there. It's $75, and the reason that that input cost is so high is because this camera needs to be able to identify the driver, not only during the day when there is light coming into the cabin of the truck, but also at night, so it would need to be a night vision equipped camera.
Sorry.
Yes.
Is this product tied to the truck or tied to the driver? I'm trying to, which is the connection?
Okay, it would be mounted inside the truck. So as the driver gets into the truck, the camera would be positioned so that it faces the driver's face, but it's installed into the truck itself.
With the ability to recognize multiple drivers?
Yes, it's adjustable. You'd be able to adjust the camera itself just on the mounting device.
So it's not necessarily, the market's not necessarily tied to the drivers, it's tied to the actual number of trucks that are driving.
That's correct. We can keep moving forward here to some revenue, or to some milestones here. In our first year of operations, we'd start selling around our 9th full month after the prototype is developed. We'd look to sell 200 units and then just grow across Canada and into the United States as well, where trucking is an even bigger market, all the way through into 2019, yes.
I'm just curious about your consideration of unions like the Teamsters, for example, who, they're involved in the truck driving world. Have you considered how that particular group would see this kind of intervention in their cabins?
We can see all throughout the business world that every business, no matter what industry, is under a microscope to make their business the most safe for their employees, for the external environment. We are offering a product that will change the industry standard for safety, and it would be ill-advised for other companies to ignore this product and basically saying they're not concerned with that amount of safety level. And we're really just offering the drivers themselves an additional safety net of fatigue driving, so we believe that they will really be on board of wanting to install these within trucks.
How would you react on the milestones for sales, for example, if the Teamsters came out and said, we're not going to back this? That's a risk.
I'm sorry to clarify, is this a drivers union?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We are not selling to the drivers. We are instead going to use a direct sales method directly to trucking companies. So these are going to be companies who are going to install our product into their entire fleet. It will not be up to the driver. It will be instead a mechanism used by the company themselves.
Big risk to do that, because if the unions certainly swing a very, very big stick, and if their drivers decide they're not going to drive because of Big Brother technology you're putting in the cabs, you've got a big trucker strike on your hands. And we've seen the evidence of that in Vancouver. So just noting it's a risk you should be thinking about.
To mitigate that problem, we are not actually recording the driver at all times. The log that we end up driving is just a sensor log of being in the seat and driving. To mitigate the use of too much memory, we have decided to not have video recording at all times.
So let me ask you, there's a lot that are long haul truckers as big companies, big corporations, but then there's thousands of single operators. So are you dealing with the individual operator? And what's the difference between the two? Because there's a lot of data that a big corporation could use, probably not the same data that an individual operator would use. So it's a safety versus an efficiency product that can be used for different purposes. So maybe you can tell me about
Great,
that.
so as Keith had already mentioned, we will be direct approaching the companies. So right now, not the single operators, we will be direct to the companies, and that's our first approach. So getting those into the companies and learning how the mechanism actually works and how it can benefit, and then furthermore, we would look into the single operators.
Just so you guys know, a lot of times the cabs are owned by independents. The body of the truck with the materials in it is owned by the trucking company. So you will need to think about a strategy where a lot of trucking companies just use independents and don't have a fleet of their own owner operator yet. So you might want to think about an approach, how you might want to flip that approach potentially.
In my mind, you have a product that has two potential functions. One is the safety side, and then the other one is the analytics side, is the information. And I think the safety side would have a really easy time selling that feature. But the analytics side, if I know anything about independent truckers, the last thing I want is another way to verify their logs, because some of them are cheap, right? And that's how they make their living. I think if you approach it as a safety product, maybe there might be a better acceptance of it. But in terms of logging the hours and stuff like that, I'm with the panel now.
Yeah, no, maybe just to address that, it sounds like across the board there's a bit of a product adoption withholding from a lot of you. And I'd like to point out that the key feature that may not have been clearly addressed is the speaker involved. If our facial recognition camera notices that a driver is beginning to nod off, starting to fall asleep, it's going to create a loud noise. It's going to notify the driver himself that maybe he's not in a condition to drive. It's almost a self-awareness kind of thing where the trucker may not realize that he's not in a condition to drive. Sometimes when you're driving down the highway a long distance, you're going to start to nod off and you may not even realize it. This sensor will start to tell you, you know what, look, you're starting to nod off, you're a little tired, you're fatigued, this is not safe anymore on BC roads.
Right. Because the software exists today, and most large trucking companies are using GPS tracking systems to know exactly where all of their trailers are, they know where all of their trucks are, so those analytics are rampant. But your safety, I agree, the safety issue is.
And that would be your consideration of why our product does not have GPS within it, because we are aware that the trucks have GPS already.
The margins are pretty thin in trucking, especially at the moment. I don't know about the LNG in the north yet, but in the mainland, for example, how can you guys take a hit if you were to have to bring the cost down a little bit to actually get the market going, and what kind of room have you got in there?
Yeah, so if you look here, actually when we sell in volume, we're looking to reduce the unit price. On average, what we projected through the remainder of our financials is an average $500 unit price to the consumer. But we do understand that this would be a premium product for a lot of these trucking companies, and as a result, if we're able to sell bulk volume to these companies, we would obviously reduce the price to them.
You've asked for $350,000.
Yes.
How will you use the money?
$350,000 will be used in our research and development. We need this money initially to build the product, to develop a prototype and begin to take it to market. In addition, legal costs as well as some marketing costs will be factored into the $350, and that's largely $350,000, sorry, and that's largely what your contribution to us would be built. Yes.
It's a question on your financials. I'm just looking at the costs of legal and insurance. In year one, they tally up to 70, year two, 110, year three, 130, year four, 155, year five, 165. Can you explain the escalation in those costs? Like why?
Which were you related to legal and insurance?
Legal and insurance combined. I mean, they're both kind of liability related.
Right. So the growth obviously is as we grow our company, we'll need to be paying higher insurance premiums to address the increased risk that we're taking on as we begin to capture the remainder of the North American market and internationally. Additionally, the large growth you'll see there in the legal expense in our second year is because we're looking to expand into North America. Those are going to be very different kind of conditions in the market that we may not be aware of and may not be satisfactory to just have simple Canadian legal counsel involved in that. So that would be the main primary jump for our 2015 to 2016 legal expenses.
What channel are you going to use to market?
Direct sales would be our channel, yes.
You're going direct sales?
Yes.
Not, okay. You may want to think about safety supply companies and distributors like that.
Yeah.
Your financials, in the first 3 years, if I add those up, you're not profitable.
That's correct.
And you're asking for a valuation of $1.5 million. How'd you come up with that?
Looking at similar companies in the industry, they trade at between an 8 and 11 times earnings multiplier. We've actually factored in a slightly more conservative earnings multiplier at 6 because we know that we are new into this market. Our product does not have a lot of maturity in this market either, so that multiplier is that's the purpose of that earnings multiplier. That's the justification behind it.
Who's the management salaries?
I was gonna say, that's a pretty nice,
That's a big number.
you guys
Who's
are
that?
That's for the
pay
three of
yourselves
us.
a pretty nice salary for the
What
first
about
year
the
while
staff?
you're losing money, and then where's all the staff, yeah?
But where's the staff? If you're 180, where's the staff?
For the first part of our company, we will be doing all of the work. We will be doing the direct sales to the companies, and that is why we are paying ourselves. We will be directly contacting the companies in BC, going to them, and also showing them how they can use our product. And furthermore, we will also be attending the transport conferences to show how our product can help companies have that competitive advantage over other companies in safety.
I guess the R&D.
And just to highlight, in years 1 to 3, when we do start to grow and it will no longer be feasible for us to be the sales force, that is when we would like to hire our third-party sales team.
And if your sales don't meet your forecast, are you willing to take a cut on your salaries and put sweat equity in?
Would you like to go for it? Yeah, actually, as you can see, we factor that in there. If we cannot meet those sales goals, we will reduce our own salaries. That's definitely a consideration.
And then a well-deserved raise at 4th, 5th year.
Nice one. Move on. We'll come up for more questions.
Sorry, can I just go back for a quick second? Your office rent in year 3 is 90,000.
Yeah. That changed in year 3 as well because that 90,000 would have been a type of ground player on the track. It should continue to be 9,000 as in our 3rd year, should we not meet these sales forecasts.
That's not moving out of the garage.
No, that's correct. And we don't need a lot of space for our operations. It's simply the 3 of us.
Now, Laura, you brought to us a very important issue of the Aboriginal and First Nations communities within Northern BC. And because we are using this as our platform to get into the marketplace, we would like to give back to these communities once we become profitable. So the way we would like to do this is in 2018 and 2019, when we are starting to see substantial revenues, we would like to give back to the communities through donations. We are not experts in recreations or services that these communities need. We instead would like to give the financial stability to the companies that are good at this and really give back to those communities and really focus our company on being corporately responsible within the places that we are operating.
In this particular model, would you be open to partnerships with First Nations in the business itself as opposed to just a CSR kind of contribution?
I think that's definitely something we would be willing to consider, but it's something that we would need to have more negotiations, more contact with the First Nations community before we go forward with that.
Now, we need to decide, I'm interested in that because I don't quite understand why you would do that. Why, and how would you choose what communities and what First Nations and where there's hundreds of communities across the province? Why would you do that? What exactly does the Aboriginal community have to do with it?
Well, because we're benefiting from the area, the areas that are benefiting from the liquid natural gas. So because we know that they're benefiting from the growth in their communities, we want to give back in a way that is showing that we support this growth and that we are benefiting, but we also want to have them benefit as well.
But is it just the Aboriginal communities or is it the rest of the communities in BC too?
Well, looking at BC at large, especially in northern BC, as would be the case in many provinces in Canada, we noticed that as we move north, the impact of environmentally taxing activities does take the first toll on these Aboriginal communities. Our business is hinged on the fact that there will be growth in this area, and as a result, we seek to give back to the community that may be at risk as a result of these growing operations. We're not causing those kind of taxing activities, but we want to help them prosper through those times.
I think Aboriginal communities are looking for partnerships and business opportunities. They're not looking for donations and handouts.
This can be discussed at a further time. This was just a way that we would like to incorporate the need that Laura has specifically presented to us within the information that she has provided us.
Other than the $350,000 investment, are you looking for any other services or advisory services?
Yeah, in addition to the $350,000, we, as we had mentioned, are not complete experts in this domain of business. We will need advice on what type of research and development corporations are prominent in the Victoria and the BC area, as well as other legal counsel we should seek. What kind of firms should we be using for marketing? Things like that we don't know ourselves. We will be coming to you as investors for that type of information.
What other products are companies using for safety within cabin of a long-haul truck at this point?
Currently, there is no safety precautions within the truck for the need that we are trying to help, which is a fatigue driver. There is nothing there that is stopping a driver from getting in the truck and driving and maybe falling asleep. So that's why we would like to target them. So in close, I'd really like to highlight to you what our product is offering and why it is going to work. So your $350,000 is going to help us create a company that has unlimited potential on a global perspective. The opportunities that you have brought to us, Laura, in these small communities, average would be about a population of 15,000. Yes, the construction opportunities of these facilities are great. We're gonna have 5,000 workers, they're gonna build the facilities. These are gone once those facilities are built. Because of this, we have determined this is such a small market and something that is not worth your time. We would like to offer you this product and a big fish in order to capture a much larger market and make real money. Touching again on safety and what our product has to offer to the industry is limitless. We are going to offer safety to the trucks themselves, the cargoes that are on the trucks. We're going to offer a safety for the integrity of companies. The trucking companies, they don't want their name on an accident on the highway because a driver fell asleep. We're going to offer safety to the drivers, not only the driver in the truck, but the other drivers on the highway. And we're also going to offer ease of mind to the families of the drivers who are on the road, on long hauls, and really ease their mind that they're going to go out for a week or 2 weeks, whatever that long haul is, and come home safely. One more point that I'd like to bring up is these two guys here. These guys are going to kill it. They're going to knock it out of the park. And us as a team, with your expertise in the industry and your cash equity, is going to allow us to be successful and to flourish within the marketplace. So once again, I'd like to thank you for the time. We are Hawkeye, and we look forward to doing business with you in the future.